Oh, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all the live viewers all over the world. And hello to the replay viewers. And hello to Gemma.
Hello, who is very much here in person,
Yes, there
not a
you are.
hallucination, still here. There we go.
Yes, always,
Shut that up.
always drama out there.
Yes.
Anywho, uh, great show today. Very excited about this one. Uh, good friend of mine from the fire department. I met Elaina when I got back from rehab. I had known her before, but we hadn't really, become friends yet like we have. We kind of bonded, I guess, over my journey on sobriety and mental health as well as hers. Um, so it was nice, again, to come home to such a wonderful support group at home with just when I got back from uh, rehab. Yeah, Elena was there and made it quite easy to slide back into normal life, if you will. We've shared quite a bit over the past year or so. And um, yeah, so today's episode is going to be about her mental health and what she's done as far as her own business she owns. So she volunteers at my firehouse that I work at every third day. And um, she's also a successful business owner for her business of Lions Share Marketing. Um, so, without any further ado, let's bring Elaina up onto the screen and say hello. Hello. How are you today?
I'm well. How are you?
I am very well. Thanks for joining us today. And hello to everybody slowly coming in
Absolutely.
to the room. So, welcome to the Mental Health Hour. Thanks for joining us. And what, where can we start here? Let's start with the introductions. They all know us. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. So obviously, my name is Elena. You already said that. I volunteer at the station every third day, um, and I also own a marketing company. I actually started doing both at almost the exact same time. Oddly enough, I just realized that. But I do marketing and advertising for small businesses and nonprofits. So that's my day job, and then obviously the station is my non-paid job. But yeah.
It can definitely be a second job, that's for sure. Um, so, can you give us a little background on any mental health issues that you've experienced or would like to bring to light, talk about anything on this show? Uh, and, kind of like when it started, like when, even if it's from childhood, whatever, just let us know. Hi, Ella.
Um, yeah. So I was officially diagnosed with depression when I was 16, but I was definitely experiencing it probably when I was about 13. Um, and I originally like went to the doctor and got a prescription without my parents knowing about it. Um, and just kind of most of it I kind of just went through by myself for a long time. And it started as a diagnosis of depression, and kind of once I actually saw like psychiatrists and therapists, um, kind of added on to that. So I have severe anxiety, OCD, PTSD, um, So the kind of run the
The
gamut
full
of
the full gamut.
mental illnesses. Yeah,
That's what I
yeah.
like to say.
And I um, and I've also struggled with an eating disorder for about a decade now. So, and it all kind of, as I'm sure you guys talk about all the time, like it all kind of compounds on everything else. So
Hmm.
to make like
Yes.
one unhappy family of brain issues.
Mm.
So, would you say that your PTSD diagnosis comes more from the fire department side of things, or more stemming from earlier on in your life?
Oh, that's way earlier. Um, the obviously there's some stuff that I've had to process from the fire department that I still think about all the time. But most of that comes from um, my childhood.
I see.
So
Okay.
so
Um,
yeah,
yeah. Welcome on in, everybody
and
coming on
I think
into.
that's the case with a lot of people.
Oh yeah. Yes, absolutely. Today we have a good
Like
friend of mine, Elaina, on the broadcast. She's talking with us about her mental health struggles so far, and we're going to get into some more of her successful business ownership here in a bit. But we want to talk about self reliance today. And this was something that you came up with. As I ask everybody, hey Dan, how are you? Uh, as I ask everybody that comes on the show, I want them to pick the topic that means something to them. I want them to be passionate about it. I want them to send a message and speak freely on it, on whatever. This is a safe space. Even though we are broadcasting to the internet, it doesn't seem like a safe space, but we keep a pretty tight ship here. So please feel free to um, tell us anything you want to. So you picked self-reliance. Can you expand on how this has been important to you?
Yeah, I think that obviously, like you said, like you've known me a while now, and um, I've struggled a lot, not just recently, but kind of my entire life with um, I guess finding support systems and then losing them for a variety of reasons. Um, and it would always hit me really, really hard when I would have, especially like if I was in like a really deep, dark place and I would have somebody there and then all of a sudden they weren't, especially if they knew what was going on. That would just hurt every single time. And it kind of plunged me even deeper in whatever I was going through. Um, and so over time and through therapy, I've kind of realized the importance of being able to look inward versus outward for, um, I guess, comfort in the moment and support in the moment because you're not always going to have someone there. Ideally,
Right.
you would, but you aren't always going to have that. And at the end of the day, you are alone with yourself. Like at the end of the day, you have to be okay with yourself. And I think um, learning to be okay with that and be um, kind of, I guess, confident in my own strength to get through things has been
Mm-hmm.
really important.
Awesome, awesome. And Gemma,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I had you do a little bit of normally on the show we like to present some information, that we pull from different various um, websites on the internet to kind of help explain some things
Mm-hmm.
to those in the comments, the audience, the replay viewers that aren't quite up to speed on the topic that we're dealing with that week. Gemma, would you mind going through some of the slides that you found just to kind of
Yeah.
break down what self reliance is a bit?
Are you trusting me with the buttons?
Yes, go for it.
There we go. All right, I'll bring this one up first because I have got this one open. Well, I'm going to open it back up. All right. Um, so this is one that I found. It kind of breaks down different ways of like becoming more. What's the word I'm trying to think of? Just my brain, like becoming more independent. That's the word, right? Rather than being reliant on other people. And when you're going through depression and stuff, that can be really hard to even want to do anything for yourself. Um, so it's controlling everything. There's the control, comfort, doubt, and fear. But the belief that you can do this and get on top of it. And it says that anger and blame are two more common manipulative mechanisms that bring a measure of comfort while allowing yourself to be in control. The more comfortable I can make myself, and the more control I feel, I use several means to bring comfort to my life whilst reducing fears. As fear grows, I begin to doubt. Trust is hard to come by. Rather than relying on other people, begin to look at yourself. Self preservation methods, things in which you can help yourself to cope with, such as shame, guilt, inadequacy, and suspicion. Um, I'm not going to read it all because, like, some of it's a bit repetitive with the other stuff. It's to like, this is how I should be living rather than trying to keep going on with the way that you have been going, trying to focus on what you want to achieve and moving forward, making steps into self improvement and becoming more self independent. Then we've got this one. Here we go. Benefits of self reliance. So, depending on others for help means there will be times when it's not available. So, you can't always expect that other people will be available for you. You can solve problems and make decisions for yourself. Now, I personally find making decisions still, even now, very difficult. But again, that comes from a lot of my upbringing and things.
Hmm.
You feel happy being yourself, in yourself, and about yourself without needing to rely on others. You develop self acceptance. It encourages you to practice self compassion and self knowledge and gives you perspective and direction. And do we have another one? And then there's just this one here that I found was a nice little quote. Self reliance is the only road to true freedom, and being one's own person is its ultimate reward. I thought that was quite a nice one.
Yes, that's very nice.
There we go. And I didn't break
Very
them.
nice. Uh, Thank you for sharing that. The benefits of self reliance, obviously, they seem the most obvious place to start as far as our mental health and everybody's mental health. And when we when we go out there and we ask for help on a certain issue, let's take my alcoholism. That's already starting down the road of self reliance, I think, a little bit. Would you agree, Gemma?
Yeah, like, oh, hang on. Sorry. I'm struggling with the screen.
No, that's okay.
There we go. Because I was over at the one side and it's just. Bleh. Right, go on. Sorry.
I said, like, take with my alcoholism for example.
Mm,
Um, Starting down the road of self reliance has a lot to do with first realizing that there is a problem and needing help. Am I
mhm.
correct? Or would you
Oh,
agree?
yeah, definitely. You've got to realize that you need the help before you can actually go and do that. And definitely with yourself, no, or like, or even anyone, being told that you need help and being able to accept you need help are very different things. Like people can tell you that you need the help or you need to do this, but until you truly believe it and will realize that you need the help, then it doesn't. it doesn't help. You've got to want to do it for yourself, basically.
So, Elaina, when was the catalyst moment? I ask
Yeah.
a lot of our guests that come on here. I ask them what that catalyst moment was where you just you needed some, whether it be counseling or um, just you realized that you were struggling and you needed some help along your travels. Do you have a mind in or a time in mind that you really felt that?
I think it's hard to, because honestly, this is going to sound depressing, but I've had a lot of like typical rock bottom moments where it's like
Sure.
you feel like, wow, this can't get any worse. Like this cannot get any lower. And then a week later, a month later, a year later, it happens again. Probably a different type of rock bottom, but it's, so I can say I've definitely had different, I guess, like aha moments with different diagnoses. So um, like with my eating disorder, um, there was definitely specific moments when I was like, I need to, um, I need to get this under control. And I think the biggest one actually was right before I started Fire One, um, and I was trying really hard to get stronger and gain muscle, and um, it just wasn't working because I wasn't eating enough, like not even nearly enough, and I was looking at everybody else in the class and everyone was doing well and I was struggling and I was
Mm-hmm.
exhausted and it wasn't it wasn't working, and I kind of realized like if I want to do this I need to commit. So after like 8 years I was like I need to do this. um, and I think with the depression and stuff like that, I think there have been a lot of I guess like come to Jesus moments
Sure.
um, with that. Some of them you've helped facilitate, I think. Um, but I think the biggest ones are just, I think when you start missing things, because
Mm-hmm.
for years and years, I've had depression and I've still done things and I've still shown up. I've still gone to work. I've still done whatever I need to do. And more recently, for the past couple of years, I haven't been able to do that. So it's like for the first time with my depression, it was so severe that I wasn't able to hide it anymore. I wasn't able to um, go to work anyway or go to the station anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I was just, there was just nothing. There's nothing left for me
That's a
to.
fantastic part of depression. Uh, just, and I say fantastic in the sense that it's just overwhelming.
Mhm.
Because I mean, I've lived it too. Gemma's lived it. It's just that. Actually, my wife and I were talking about it the other day, and she was telling me that um, she's pregnant, of course, and she said she's feeling quite different. Like she's having trouble getting motivated, having trouble getting out of bed, having trouble doing things that she normally does around the house. And I'm like, that's depression, dear. and and she said, um, and somehow we got to talking like how the thought of depression is always just like this sadness. And it's
Mhm.
just not always the case. Depression is more, if you look at depression as a definition or as a whole, like it's a state of decline basically. It's like a non-motivating, I don't want to do anything kind of feeling. uh, I guess what I told her was let's take a look at when the economy is in a depression. The stock market, as I stumble over my words there, the stock market isn't sad. I mean, we're in a depression financially. You know,
Yeah.
look at the word more as the definition, what it means versus common thought that it's just sadness. It really is an
Yeah.
unmotivating thing, and that can be hard when you're seeing everybody else get uh, success around you, like in your firefighter one class that you were talking about. Everybody seems to be having uh, a good go at it. Ella asked, "What was the first step you took to get help?"
Um, for which part? If you mean the depression, the first step for that was um, creating um, a safety plan, actually, and it started with um, who I could call if I needed to, and then back to the self-reliance thing. If I couldn't, what tools do I have um, that I can rely on by myself? And of course, I got a psychiatrist, tried to change my meds,
Yeah,
um, and I started to try to do the activities that I'd stopped doing
yeah,
that brought me joy. Because that's something like you said, which is really true. Something that depression does that kind of tricks you is it does play that comparison game, and it just makes it worse because you see all these people and you don't know what their lives are like, but you see them outwardly having fun and talking about how great everything is for them, and in your head it just is like, well, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you able to have fun? Why can't you just push past it? Why can't you act like them? And it just sinks you deeper and deeper and deeper because that leads to all of that shame and guilt, and obviously those are huge driving forces of depression. um, so it's kind of really difficult, which I think can be.
hmm. And as long as I've known you, uh, this over this past year in in our chats, in our fire related um, uh, conversations, you just have a drive about you, and that you don't give up easy. There's not a whole lot of quit in you. So I guess, I mean, that plays right into your self reliance, um, and makes it that much stronger. I really do admire your drive, and if there's a problem, we tend to find a solution either as a team, or you'll take over and put your 2 cents in always. Um, um, for those of you just joining us today, welcome on in. This is a good friend of mine, Elaina Lyons. She owns Lyons Share Marketing here in Frederick, Maryland. She's also a volunteer firefighter at my station. Um, she and I have had wonderful conversations over the past year since I got back from rehab and her struggles with mental health. We've kind of bounced off of each other, a little support network of our own at work. And it's just great to have more and more folks that come out of the woodworks with these things to make it that much easier and to make you realize that you're not alone, as we say
Yeah.
all the time on this show. You were mentioning meds, and I want to jump to Gemma here. We talked to a bunch of folks about meds, um,
Mhm.
and they do come up quite frequently on the show, especially antidepressants, and how important it is to keep going back and adjusting these meds, because your body does build a tolerance.
Mhm.
Um, what can you bring up from either past episodes about antidepressants in general for our audience today?
Well, making sure you're on the right ones is certainly a key. And I know certainly here that GPs are very quick to prescribe them. And I find, and I know you said it as well, that GPs are kind of like a jack of all trades
Hmm.
and don't necessarily know what's best for you. So it's best to go and get more expertise advice when getting the right one. It's not always easy to do that, but make sure that you do get the right one. you do generally have to be on them for a while before they will kick in and work. But also, it's not a case of one size fits all. What works for one isn't necessarily going to work for another. And some might only need a lower dose, some might need a higher dose, then you might need to increase it because you do get to the point where you're dependent on them, but also it stops working as well as it used to do. So sometimes you might have to switch from one to another and then come back to it again.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've done full circle of pretty much everything in existence because I've been taking them since I was about 9. But I've not been on any for a while now. But again, that's because, as I say, my GP prescribed them and it turned out to be the wrong one for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I say it's very important to make sure it is the right one and it
Yes.
doesn't like interact with anything else that you take at the same time. So make sure you get them from the right place rather than just getting them and thinking, oh, well, this is what they've given me. This will be the right one because it's not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily going to be the right one.
True.
And there's no shame in having to try a few to get the
Yeah,
right one. None at all.
that's what we definitely tout that on the show is don't be afraid to try different
Mm,
medications. Your psychiatrist or doctor will work with you on that and
mhm.
see what works best for you because not everybody reacts the same way.
Oh,
Um,
no.
you know,
And I would say
so
also like don't be afraid to don't be afraid to if something isn't working, or if you've tried something before and you don't and you know it's not going to help, don't be afraid to say something because for a
Mhm.
very long time I was just like, oh, it's just this is a psychiatrist, they know, and I would take medication that made me feel awful, but I wouldn't say anything because like, oh well, they know what they're doing. This has to work. It's
Yeah.
me that's why it's not working. Like I just have to change myself.
mhm,
But a lot of times, like you said, like medication isn't one size fits all.
Mhm.
So I feel like don't be if it's not working, if you're not seeing improvement after a certain amount of time, or if it makes you feel bad, don't or worse, don't hesitate to say, hey, this isn't working. I need to try something else.
Yeah.
And Gemma, I completely relate to what you said because I have treatment resistant depression.
Mhm.
So they actually did like genetic testing and everything, and um, I my body just doesn't respond to almost all of the the medications that I have
Yeah.
been taking, which makes sense now. But it's very very frustrating to
Yeah.
try
Yeah.
pill after pill after pill, and it doesn't do
I've
anything.
tried,
So
I've literally been through them all and none of them have helped. But they don't diagnose that here. They will just say, oh, well, like, give you something else, give you something else. And I have been full circle many, many times. And I started on them at 9 because I started self harming at 9. And
mhm.
I've been through them all. I think Prozac was the one I was on the most. But it just, some of them made me feel really ill. Some of them made
Mhm.
me sick. And none of them helped at all. And then you start thinking, yeah, it's me. Why aren't
Yeah,
they working? And that's why I'm not on any now because I won't go back to my GP and tell them I want any more. I want to wait for the referral to come through from
mm,
a psychiatrist and then say, I want something now because I want
yeah,
to see if there is anything else rather than just saying to my GP, I need something because they're just going to start me on that circle again.
yeah,
And I don't want to be at the stage where I feel ill. So I think, well, I might as well wait and get the right
yeah,
one, hopefully.
mhm,
yeah.
absolutely. And as Molly reminds us, another thing we talk about all the time is
Hmm.
if you don't have the right therapist, don't feel like you have to stay. You guys are not in a committed relationship. Uh, you
No.
Yeah,
know, and not in the and not in the sense of a relationship. I mean, you didn't sign any contract that says you have 20 sessions with this person. Um,
yep,
if you're not feeling it, if it's not a jive, you should have a feeling of more of a relationship with your primary therapist that you share some pretty intimate stuff with. So yes, thank you, Molly, for reminding us.
There are some over here that say, like, I've just had a 20 session block, but that doesn't mean you get a 20 session block with that person. It's 20 sessions. So, like, when you say the 20 sessions, it doesn't mean you have got to stick with that person. There is always someone else.
Yes, yes, indeed. So I
Mm.
would like to move more towards something that we all the three of us here have experienced. Um, Gemma, not so much in the legal word of divorce, but you were long term with somebody common law kind of situation,
Yeah, yeah.
which we understand what that is over here as well. Um,
Hmm.
and you had a kid with said person, and so we've all kind of hit some form of divorce here, some form of relationship termination. Um, where did that? I mean, I've talked with Elaina several times on the subject, but for our audience, where did that kind of spiral you or propel you, if you will, in your journey?
Um, I would say without a doubt, getting divorced has been the one of the most difficult things I've ever experienced. Um, because it's so I feel like it's so normalized that people tend to not understand if you're struggling with it.
Mm.
So, um, for example, like if I'm having a hard time and I say, well, I'm going through a divorce, and usually people will say something like, oh, well, at least you don't have kids, so you're
Mm-hmm.
lucky. Or, well, at least you aren't on terrible terms, so you're lucky. Or at least, and it's not helpful to
It's
say stuff
dismissive.
No.
like that. It's very dismissive. Um,
Mm.
and it definitely, it absolutely just thrust me way, way deeper into depression because I have depression on a good day. Like on an average regular day, I have depression. And then when you pile real life stuff, um, when you pile like real life stuff on top of that, it just, it kind of implodes. Um, so yeah, it's definitely been difficult.
Mm-hmm. Yes. It's actually, I think divorce is what finally sent me 6 years later. It's finally sent me to rehab. Like it spiraled me so far out of control in my between my ears and everything. It was the definite. There was already a lot going on in my from my side of the
Mhm.
street as it was, but this was just the spiraling out of control moment. Divorce is not something that is easy. Um, I know some
Yeah.
people have talked. I've talked with some people, and when I was getting divorced, I was quite curious how they make it look so easy sometimes.
Yeah.
Like it's just sign here, we're on our way. They're both parties are married with kids within like a year, and it's just I'm like that was not my experience at all. This was terrible. But
No, yeah. That's exactly right. And it's like, I mean, obviously everyone's experience with divorce is different. Um, but I feel like I definitely kind of shamed myself a lot because I'm like, why is this for me? Why is it not easy for me to move on? I don't need to move on. Why is it about this and it's been 6 months, 9 months, a year, whatever. It's incredibly difficult because I think especially with people who already have mental health issues and already kind of feel shame and guilt and like a burden, divorce just makes that even more, um, just feel even more, um, I guess, uh, pronounced.
oh, there she is.
Oh,
There we go.
Yeah, I
There
think
we
we're
go.
good.
Sorry. Um, yeah, it was. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. But yeah, so
That's
it's
okay.
definitely it. I would. I would say it absolutely made it a million times harder. And that's something that like you've obviously seen that. Like I'm still trying really hard to like crawl back to
Yeah.
an okay place. Um,
Yeah. And
but
Gemma, how about you when you split with Thomas's dad? Um,
Um,
how long of a are you still crawling back? Would you say, as Elaina put it?
mm, he's still around. Um, I'd like very much for him to just disappear off the face of the earth sometimes, most times, to be fair, to make it easier. Because we have a child, and no matter how much I try and think like it's over with, it never really will be because we have the connection with a child. And even though there was a lot of violence there, I always said that I would never be that mother that said you can't see your child. If he wants to see him, then he can see him. And he's just started wanting him around and wanting to see him. And for a very long time, I put up with the violence, I put up with the aggression, I put up with it all just so that I wasn't a stereotypical single mom and made to feel like I failed because
Mm-hmm.
I'd had countless relationships that had failed. And I was like, this was obviously the only child that I had. And um, I didn't want it to feel like I'd failed and I'd not given it enough to try and make it work because I was having it from lots of different angles saying, "Oh, well, you should have done this, you should have done that, or it's not that bad, or like at least you're not married," stuff like that when we split up. And it's like it's so dismissive in the way that they'll be like play down what the problem is, like not acknowledge what you've gone through, but say, "Oh, at least it's not." And
Yes.
I find that awful for someone to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that, like, I think I'd put up with maybe a good year of domestic abuse, and not always in the violence form, but a lot of it was like emotional and psychological. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to just walk away and feel like, with him being a boy as well, I thought, well, he needs his dad. I I
Yeah.
th I really did think that because he was a boy, he would need a dad because there were certain things that I couldn't teach him.
Sure.
I mean, evidently, like, the fact that every time I go to the toilet, there's pee all over the seat. And I joke thinking, would he have done that if he'd have had a dad around? Like, could he have actually hit the hole? Just like,
Yes.
I don't know. But, I don't know, I think, would things have been different if he'd have been around?
Mm-hmm.
But then I think if he'd have been around, then I wouldn't have been because of the way it ended. So I
Right.
think deep down, I know I did the right thing. I just hope
Absolutely.
he does when he's older, and
Yep.
that plays on me a lot.
And we push forward.
Mhm.
Um, it does come to a point where it's one of those what's done is done. And now we look forward and we try and provide the best atmosphere in life we can uh, with the circumstances that have arisen. Um, and that being said, Elaina, the start of your business. How long has Lion Share Marketing been a thing?
Mhm. It started out as a side business that I've been doing for about a decade, a little bit longer. And then I made it an official full time business November 2019. So almost 2 years.
Awesome. And we're going to get into that a little bit. So you are at this point a successful business owner, small business, yes.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, uh, Lion Share Marketing, and if you could, please put your socials that you want in the comments. They'll be there forever.
Okay.
Um, and throw them in there. The her Instagram account is on the um, the opening screen,
Mm.
but she'll throw in her TikTok, I believe, and her actual company website. She's been doing marketing now for, she said, the better part of a decade now.
Mhm.
And that is your passion, would you say? You enjoy it a lot, don't you?
I wouldn't say it's my passion, but I enjoy it. My passion is more writing, but that doesn't pay the bills. Um,
Oh, your
so
passion. Okay. But
yeah.
you can always write on the side, like
Oh
do a
yeah, and I
little
do.
a journal. Yeah. That brings up a fantastic segue there, back into journaling, uh, being such a therapeutic device that we don't utilize enough, I think. Um, do you keep a journal regularly?
Um, I used to. I don't journal right now, but I did download this app. Um, and it's like a gratitude app, and you every day you put one positive thing that happened.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I'm on a 32-day streak, so I'm pretty proud of myself.
Hey.
Um, but it's cool because I have to stop myself from writing the negative things because sometimes I'll get on there and I'll start typing like this was difficult today or whatever, and I erase it and just put this is the positive space, and I can put the negative stuff elsewhere, but this is the good space. So
Mm.
I try to do both when I can.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And that, um, I saw you doing it the other day. I guess did I make it in your gratitude journal?
You have many times actually.
Oh, well, thank you. Hmm. Uh, no, again, for those just joining and listening in, we Elena and I work together frequently at the fire station, um, and we have, since I got back from rehab, we have bounced. Hi, do how are you? We have bounced all kinds of conversations off of each other. Um, she's helped me out. I've helped her out in her struggles, my struggles. So it's been a very great friendship that's come out of my sobriety, and I'm definitely glad to have her around to talk to sometimes when there's just nobody else around in the middle of the night at the station or something like that. It's good to have that support network keep growing and keep growing as our journey continues. Um, Elena, what would you say is what keeps you going on this business, with all of the mental health and the struggles? And I know personally, um, what you've gone through. What's the drive? It's got to be more than just paying the bills.
Yeah. Um,
Is
I think
would you say there's that lack of quit that I was talking about earlier comes into play?
yeah, I think it's more stubbornness than anything else. I think that um, I have like a overinflated sense of responsibility. I feel like I need to, um, if I'm going to do something, I need to put 100% into it. So I think that's what, you know, that moves me forward on that. But yeah, paying the
And
bills, of course, is a big motivator.
well, that's a motivator for anybody, right? Um, so we'll talk a little bit more about the volunteer firefighting. What on earth made you wake up one day and say, "That looks fun. Let's do that in my spare time"?
So, a very long time ago, when I first met my ex husband, his uncle is a career firefighter. And I always thought it was the coolest thing. And I used to work for the newspaper, a local newspaper, and I did a story on the local fire department, and I saw a female firefighter, and I had never before seen a female firefighter, and I thought it was the coolest thing. And I was like, I need to do that. I want to do that. And at the time, I was severely underweight, so I couldn't. There's no way that would happen. And I mean, that was years ago. That was probably like 8 years ago. And for years, I was just like, I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get strong enough to do that, and I just never did.
Yeah.
Um, and then it literally was just like one day I was like, why am I not trying to do this? Like, I want to do this. Why am I not trying to do this? And I've just always liked challenging myself and doing things that I didn't think I could do. So, yeah.
Yeah. And it's, would you say, still as exciting and everything you had hoped it was going to be?
It's more honestly, and it's not even for like running calls. It's the atmosphere and the people that like yourself that I've met, like the friendships that have come out of it. I never thought that it would be all that it is, and I'm immensely grateful. And honestly, it has. This is gonna sound like a cliche, but it's 100% true. It has saved my life on more than one occasion because having that sense of purpose and having the like I signed up to go in tomorrow. I have to go in tomorrow.
Yeah.
Um, it has really made a really big difference um, a lot of times. So
There's quite a few people I've talked to, especially even on this platform, that say the same basic principle of what you just said. Like, I don't know if Ella's still here in the comments, but she talks to us all the time about how she's a bunny mom. She makes these, or she doesn't make these. She sells these cute bunnies, and she advocates for bunny rescue, and that's her drive. That is what she says. The bunnies, she doesn't know if she's saving the bunnies or the bunnies are saving her.
yeah,
Um, and it's the same kind of principle
Do you
there.
ever
So
think that people that have suffered the most with their mental health want to go on to help other people, even if they're not truly, like, for want of a better way of putting it, healed themselves? The fact that they want to go on and help somebody else helps them. Like,
I
certainly
think
for me, I thought.
yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think that not that people who have mental illnesses are broken. I don't want to say that, but in a
Mhm.
sense, I think the most broken people want to have an inherent desire to fix. Perhaps it's because we can't really fix ourselves
Yeah.
in that respect, so we want to do whatever. Like that's kind of my thing is I want to make everyone around me happy all the time. And it might be
mhm.
Yeah, I
because
do.
I struggle with that myself. And I think part of it is that I never want anyone to feel the way that I have felt.
Mhm.
And if I can do anything to make them not feel that way, I try to do
That's
that because
that sounds
you,
like literally what I said the other week. I hear you there. I really do.
you wanna make a difference if you can.
Mhm.
So firefighting and marketing, two very separate things, but together, would you they together they help you uh, with your day to day, right?
Yeah,
Um, and it makes it easier to find something to put into your gratitude journal, right?
yeah.
And that's can we just touch on that? Hi, Jim. Welcome on in, and thank you for the award. Thank you everybody for the awards as this show has gone on. Um, I tend to have a bit of a harder time, as you guys know, reading the comments. I've been trying to keep up, but when I'm doing an actual interview versus just a me and Gemma show, um,
Mm.
I feel like I miss more. So thank you very much for the conversation and the awards, and as always for joining us. Um, please keep coming back to us, and we'll keep putting on this show every week. Um, but the gratitude journal, I wanted to go back to that briefly. Since my stay at rehab and learning all about all of this mental health jazz, if you will, um, one thing that has been a constant is gratitude. And uh, it's not something that I ever thought about as a tool for help. Um, but a quote I remember from one of my therapists that has stuck with me is go and ask somebody to name three things that pissed them off today, and they'll rattle them off like that. But ask them three things that they're grateful for today, and they're like,
Mhm.
you know. So you really do have to think about it, don't you? And
True.
forcing ourselves to come up with these what are we grateful for? is is not just some cliche thing. It actually does something. Would you agree, Elaina?
Absolutely. It's like when they say when you smile, it actually tricks your brain into thinking you're happy for a couple minutes. It's or a couple seconds. It's kind of the same thing when you're even if you take 2 minutes to write down something that you're grateful for. During those 2 minutes, you're thinking about that and you're thinking about that happy moment that you had, even if it was like the tiniest moment in the day. You're thinking about it, and that instantly helps you and calms you and makes you feel better because you're in that moment. That's how our memories work. Um,
Yes.
so it's really, really, it's a good it's a good space. And kind of like you, like I never really did much with that. Like I was told, like therapists would tell me, like, do you write down your gratitude, wake up and write think what you're grateful for. But when you're like in the thick of it, it's really hard to think about even one thing, even one thing that you're grateful for. So sometimes, and my therapist told me a long time ago, she's like, it might be that the fact that you walked out and it wasn't raining,
Hmm.
or that you got a coffee today and it was good. Like she's like, it doesn't have to be anything mind blowing. It can be a tiny, tiny thing. Your favorite show was on TV tonight.
Yeah,
Anything. It can be literally anything. It doesn't have to be some monumental thing, but it's just focusing on that can make a big, big difference.
absolutely. And it really is a very thoughtful tool that can help us, just like you said, take 1 second out of the day to smile. Just think about something that made you happy, and it does a world of good for your brain, whether you realize it or not. Um, the inner workings are actually working well. Um,
That and I think affirmations too, which I used to think were really stupid, honestly. But they really, really, really help now. Usually, I pick one thing, like either per day or per week, and that's just what I tell myself all the time.
yeah.
I just repeat it over and over and over again. My latest one, you probably saw it on my phone, but the latest one that I just made wallpaper out of is these things will be hard, but you can do hard things.
Hmm.
Um, and I love it because it's not denying that things can suck. I hate when it's
Hmm.
like, oh, everything will be fine. I hate that. I absolutely hate it because it's not fine. It's not fine. So don't tell me that. Um, but that that definitely it definitely has helped me, especially that quote.
Yes. Yeah. And there's Gemma dropped in the comments there one of her gratitude journal apps. Please feel free to get on your Google Play Store or your App Store and just search gratitude journal.
Yeah,
They're a great
actually,
tool.
mine. If you want to know, mine is called Happy Feed, FEED, Happy Feed.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Um, and it's really cool. And you actually you can put pictures in there, and it jumbles it up for you, so it'll remind you
Yeah.
and say, look at your photos or look at your memories from 3 weeks ago. So it kind of brightens your day a little bit.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, this is similar.
And I
It's
and I don't think what you said was there was anything wrong with saying like affirmations you thought were silly or stupid at first. I thought AA was stupid at first, and now I'm there every day, and it really helps. It does. Working a strong program is where I've been so successful. Um, so yeah, as we move forward in our own personal paths of mental health, things change, our opinions change,
yep.
and once we really give things the light of day and a shot at uh, trying to make us more sound-minded, we open up maybe a whole new world that we just thought was that we kind of shrugged off in the beginning. Um, but we are coming up towards the end of the hour, and I want to ask you to share not what we can talk gratitude in a minute if you'd like, but uh, what could you say to the uh, young or older females out there that are looking to start business, maybe struggling with some mental health? Just from your experiences, is there something you can leave the audience with that self reliance in particular ties into and pushes you forward?
I would say as kind of a blanket statement that covers all of that, don't let anyone tell you you can't, including yourself. Um, because I think we are, especially when you have mental illnesses, you are your own worst enemy at times. Um, and kind of a negative to self reliance is that if you have a mental illness, sometimes you're relying on the wrong thing that your brain is saying. So you have to make sure that um, you're taking the steps to validate the positives and not reinforce the negatives. So um, I would say just trust yourself, um, to have the tools that you need, um, to be successful, whether that's in at work, struggling with mental illness,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that may be. Just trust yourself.
Awesome. Thank you. And please, one last time, plug uh, plug your business and what it is you do for
Mhm.
folks.
So I do marketing and all things advertising, writing, editing for small businesses and nonprofits of all kinds and all over the world. So it doesn't really matter where it is. Um, all the stuff is going to be linked, I think, but you can find me online at lions-sharemarketing.com.
Mhm.
And all the socials are going to be in here. So,
I'll
and
add
I
it
put
to
them
the
in the
bio
comments.
link as well. I'll
Thank
add it
you.
to our bio link so that it's in
Yes. Yes, if you want to find Elaina on her socials or her actual business website, um, it will be on our bio link for the mental health hour.
there. Mhm.
And you said I'll just throw this one in the Lions hyphen share marketing.com.
.com.
Boom. Does that look about right to you?
That's perfect.
Righto. Well, Elaina, I really want to thank you for coming on. It's been a long time coming. We talked about doing this show, and I think it was wonderful to hear your side of things. And how did it feel being vulnerable on a platform you've never really been on before? And these,
Mm.
you know,
It
you've
wasn't.
watched the show, but
I have. I watched almost every episode. It's not. It wasn't as bad as I thought. I think it's just because I mean I'm so comfortable with you, and I met Gemma before, and so I feel a little bit less, um,
Mm.
naked for the world. But yeah, it wasn't that bad. I enjoyed it. Thank you guys.
yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
thank you.
And I'd like to run through my normal spiel at the end of every episode. We'd love to plug our active sponsors and our friends. This is, we have talked about her already, but Ella, My Bunny Valentine. Um, go to mybunnyvalentine.com. Use my code FireDude15. You get 15% off your order. And if it's over $20 or more, you get a nice little cool hat uh, that you can see on the Beardo Weirdo show if you watch those guys. Um, don't forget, as always, it's Catalyst Wednesday. So please tune in tonight, 11 p.m. Eastern, and uh, at Jim in Chicagoland's page there. He'll be doing the Catalyst program that we all know and love. 4 years strong now. I hope to see everybody over there um, tonight because I will be there as always. And lastly, we'd like to send congratulations to Doe Darling, who we had on the show not too long
Mhm.
ago. Doe has achieved her goal on both the miles walked. She's hit the 100 miles, and uh, we've Doe has raised over £500 for the UK charity Mind for mental health. So big congratulations. The month is still going. Doe can still walk, and you guys can still donate. So please, please, please go to tinyurl.com slash vegan dough. Um, and there's never enough support for these types of charities. So we'll end with her video again, and we'll close out the month with Doe as always. And Elaina, thank you again for coming on.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
talking. And Gemma, thanks for being here. Everybody in the comments,
Hello.
it's great to see you as always. Thank you for all the awards. Very much appreciated. We'll be here every week as long as you keep having us around. And we will see you guys next week.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.